Thank you. Good morning. I'm Derrick Frost. I am VP of IP Video for Alcatel-Lucent, and if you can't tell by the accent, I am from the United States, precisely Washington, D.C., but I do have global responsibility for IP Video at Alcatel-Lucent. And so you might be asking yourself, what does a company like Alcatel-Lucent know about optimizing the companion experience? And even though we're not a consumer household brand like Twitter and MTV that spoke earlier today, Alcatel-Lucent is powering the multi-screen video experience for some of the largest Tier 1 pay TV operators across the globe. And as part of this, we've had kind of a first-hand experience in seeing and working with those operators to help them understand what's needed in order to optimize their companion experiences. So before I get started, let me do a quick poll. I'm always interested to understand kind of the audience in the room. And so by a show of hands, who in the room are pay TV operators, either cable, telco providers? Okay, great. What about content providers? Okay. And other vendors like me? Okay. We'll be selling to ourselves a lot here, but it seems like the majority of the folks in the room are pay TV operators. And it's really a great time for the video industry in particular, but especially pay TV operators. If you think about it, for 40 plus years, the television watching experience went relatively unchanged. The whole idea of watching TV was sitting in your living room with your remote control, leaning back on the couch, and watching a very passive television experience. In the last 2 years, we've really seen that change dramatically. We've seen that television is becoming a more interactive experience. And the two previous presentations just really showed you some of the changes that are happening around the TV experience. But I think the key point for me is that those things are happening around the TV experience. TV still is the central content that our consumers crave. And as pay TV operators in particular, that's a significant thing for you. So what's really driving the change that's taking place in our industry right now? Well, essentially you have two worlds colliding. So you have the internet on one hand that we know as personal, we know as social, we know as interactive, that's colliding with the TV world that we know as engaging and entertaining, but relatively passive. And in the middle of these two worlds that are colliding, the internet and television, you have consumers. And consumers are beginning to expect more personal, interactive video experiences. And so pay TV operators have the challenge associated with how they deliver those experiences to their consumers. And Alcatel-Lucent is working with those operators to help them in that area. So in the time that I have here today, what I'd like to really talk about is some of the key trends that are affecting the delivery of multi-screen companion experiences. And I've lost my mic here. I'd also talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing amongst operators there, and then really focus on the opportunities that it presents. Okay. Clicker's not working. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So first of all, what we're really seeing, we're going from this traditional plain old television service to multi-screen TV delivered over fixed and mobile networks. And when you look at it, there's this whole idea and this whole concept called TV Anywhere, right? The ability to be able to deliver any video across any network to any device anytime. And I really call this the 4 Any's. And this is really the central theme that's really galvanizing our industry right now. So when I talk about any video, so both linear and on-demand content, as well as internet video, delivered to the TV, delivered to tablets, delivered to mobile phones. When I talk about any network, it really means how do I take that content that's traditionally been delivered to over a managed network to a set-top box and be able to deliver that content to users as they move about in their day-to-day lives. And then any device. We've all seen the proliferation of connected devices that has taken place recently with the introduction of the iPhone and the iPad. And now, essentially, video is breaking outside of the set-top box. It's being delivered to these devices, and consumers want to be able to experience that on their device of choice. So multi-screen really is about virtualizing the set-top box, breaking it out of this cumbersome device that has really constrained it for a period of time and being able to deliver it to consumers where they want, how they want, and when they want. The second trend, which we spent a lot of time earlier talking about in the earlier presentations, is interactivity. We're essentially moving from a passive TV watching experience to an interactive end-user experience. And there's 2 key elements associated with this. One is personalization. Due to the internet, consumers are wanting and craving a personal experience. So the whole concept of personal TV or my TV. I want to be able to have my channels, my content, the content that really appeals to me. And we're seeing this demonstrated through services such as Netflix, who have really taken advantage of advanced content recommendations to be able to deliver to consumers a personalized video experience. The second major trend that we're seeing around interactivity of the end user experience is the whole idea of social TV that we talked about earlier. And there's really a couple different aspects of social TV. The first aspect, as was demonstrated in the previous presentations, is kind of the first wave of social television. The ability to be able to share things within my social network. So paste to my Facebook page or update my Twitter to be able to share with my friends what I'm watching. The next phase and the next wave, which we see in terms of social TV, is really kind of more participation TV. So the ability to be able to interact with that content through things like polls and things like requests for information and things like voting. That really is delivering on what we've traditionally thought of interactivity on the television, but doing it more so on companion devices than on the television as it has been envisioned previously. And the third and final wave that we really see around social TV and interactivity is the whole idea of being able to have in-sync content with the TV show that I'm watching. So now it becomes a whole different experience. I'm watching the main TV, but at the same time, I'm getting this rich content that's being delivered to me, that's providing context and background around what I'm watching. The next major trend that's evolving around video is openness. So we're moving from this closed video world to this open distribution. And we saw this initially with services like YouTube, right? So for such a long period of time, video was defined by big studios and big pay TV operators controlling the distribution of video to consumers. Now with the internet and the advent of services like YouTube, we've had the democratization of video, where anybody can share their video to a global audience. The second wave, which we've seen associated with the openness of video, is really services like Netflix that have really taken the advantage of the open internet to be able to deliver subscription pay TV-like services to consumers, and really going over the top and being able to bypass the very controlled distribution that was traditionally associated with television and video content. And this has really precipitated the next and the current wave that we're seeing around video and open distribution, which is TV everywhere. So now pay TV operators across the globe are responding to the challenges of YouTube and Netflix by creating their own open distribution models where consumers that are paying for their pay TV subscription services and are authenticated can now access that content on any of their connected devices. The last major trend that I'd like to touch on briefly here, and I'll cover it in a little bit more detail later, is moving from this rigid infrastructure to flexible, open, and agile infrastructure. And this is really one of the big changes that's taking place in our industry right now. For so long, when we thought of things like IP&TV, it was thought of as in terms of this monolithic infrastructure, very homogeneous, in a lot of cases proprietary, not very flexible, not very open. And when we think about the needs of operators now to be able to respond to the challenges that they're getting from a competitive perspective, you need very open, very flexible, very modular solutions to be able to do that. And we're starting to see the introduction of web-based technologies to help facilitate this. So things like the cloud, things like CDN, things like multi-screen clients. And I'll talk about those in a few more minutes. So, optimizing the companion experience. There's three main C's that we think about around the companion experience. And you're seeing a lot of players in the industry that are really focusing on different aspects of this. The first C is control, and being able to kind of control the navigation discovery of what's on the television screen and how users find and watch what they're looking for from a content perspective. The second, and with that, you see providers like ZBox, right, which are providing interactive guides on your set-top box or on your iPad and connected device to help you control, navigate, search, discover that content. You're also seeing service providers who are using those same iPads to be able to break away from the traditional grid guides that they've had and be able to deliver a much more immersive, interactive experience around searching and discovering content. And some of them, through technologies such as eBiF and others on the cable side, are using those same iPads companion devices to actually allow you to be able to control your TV experience. So now I can discover on my companion device, push play, and actually watch on my television. The second C is context. Improving the overall context around what you're watching on the TV, right? So you have services like IMDb that help facilitate that. You have new emerging services like Into Now that leverage technologies like automatic content recognition to be able to discover what you're watching on TV and then be able to serve up additional content around that video that you're watching. You also have services, and I believe the CEO of Shazam is going to talk, that allow you to be able to Shazam content, advertising, to be able to find out more information and get additional content associated with that. These are key aspects of the companion experience. The last, which we talked about earlier, again, is the communication aspect. So being able to share with my friends what I'm watching on TV. But we think that also emerges into being able to leverage that information around what different people are watching on TV to be able to discover content. So now, I can see what's trending, what's popular based on all the Twitter information, and that becomes a key aspect to help me be able to determine what I want to watch on TV. All this is fine and good, but we believe that there's one more C that's even more important than all this. And quite honestly, that's the content, right? And we believe that pay TV operators are uniquely positioned to be able to bring together the complete experience that users really want. They want control, they want context, they want communication, but they also want content. And what we're seeing from different operators that we're working with is them bringing that content into the companion experience. So really delivering your full linear TV on-demand content to the companion device. Now you have an experience that is very differentiated in terms of what other third-party providers can provide. You can bring the complete experience, wrapping communication, wrapping context, wrapping control around the high-value content that your consumers crave. So briefly, I just want to share a couple examples of what we're seeing of service providers who are really starting to move down the path to be able to deliver these companion experiences. And two examples that I'll just highlight here quickly are leading cable operators in the United States who have really taken advantage of the whole emergence of companion devices, iPads, iPhones, and PCs to really start the transformation of delivery of video to their consumers. So going from a traditional analog QAM-based service delivery type of solution to now being able to do IP simulcasts across the network, leveraging HTTP adaptive streaming. And this really becoming the first wave of the transformation of video services as we know it. So Cablevision was one of the first service providers that started and initiated this in the United States. Roughly April of last year, delivering close to 200 channels of their live linear TV, as well as their on-demand, as well as their DVR capabilities. So you really start to see these whole concepts come together: the content, the context, as well as the communication, the ability to share, post what you're watching with your friends within your social network. Time Warner soon followed thereafter to be able to deliver their linear lineup as well as on-demand services, starting with the iPad, but now moving towards being able to deliver that on the PC as well as delivering it on connected TVs. And when you look at what some of the challenges that these operators have had in terms of being able to deliver these services, it really falls into about 4 key categories. One is the user experience. So, we all know the challenges associated with user experience on cable, set-top box, and now you have to be able to take that user experience and migrate it to this device and be able to tie into your back-end systems to be able to support that. So how you do navigation, how you do personalization are key aspects of that. The second and our third key aspect of that is how you create this experience where you can bookmark content, do session shifting, and things like that. The second key challenge that you face in doing this is being able to deliver across the network. So you're moving from kind of a broadcast delivery of content to a unicast delivery of content. You're leveraging things such as adaptive streaming. And you have to figure out, since it is all about the content, it's all about the video, how do you make sure you optimize the delivery of that video? The third key challenge associated with being able to deliver to companion devices is security. Content providers want to make sure that users are authenticated. They have access to the content. They've paid for that content. They also want to make sure that that content is protected. So how do I implement things such as DRM and encryption to be able to support that? And then the fourth and last key challenge that we're seeing is content management. So now I've got to be able to take this content. I've got to deliver it across iPads, Android devices, PCs. I've got HLS, live streaming, I've got to support. I've got smooth streaming, I've got to support. How do I do all the various different encoding profiles that are needed to be able to support it? So having content management becomes key. And all this is kind of where Alcatel-Lucent really comes in. So we talked about the previous 4 C's about optimizing the companion experience. The next 4 C's around optimizing multi-screen video really fit into 4 categories. The cloud. How do we move video from this monolithic environment that it's been in to this cloud-based infrastructure that supports ingest, workflow, all my applications, EPG, live TV, VOD, network DVR in the cloud. The next is content distribution. How do I support now this flexible distribution of unicast, adaptive streaming across the network? Clients. Now I've got this proliferation of clients that I've got to be able to support. I went from one set-top box that I had to deliver now to all these different devices with all these different operating systems, with all these different native user experience. How do I support that? And lastly, converged network. I want to be able to do this seamlessly over my converged network that supports voice, video, and data. So Alcatel-Lucent, we're really focused on bringing all four of these C's together: the control, the content, the context, and the communication. You can stop by our booth 83 here and see some of the things that we're doing to be able to support that. Lastly, in summarizing, what we would say to pay TV operators is don't just optimize the companion experience, own it. Bring to your consumers the content, the control, the context, and the communication so you can be the ones that's really driving that next generation user experience. Also, migrate to cloud-based infrastructures, support CDNs, implement multi-screen clients, and really leverage the whole idea of a converged IP delivery network. Thank you.